Welcome to another edition of Sports Hour here at SUNY Fredonia from Hendricks Hall. I am Kevin Syracuse with Mac Clune, and we're switching things up this time. We're going to talk about the MLB first, but before the MLB, Fredonia sports. So the men's soccer team needed 2 wins and some help this weekend in order to clinch a playoff berth. They won both games, but did not get the help that they needed as Brockport took the 6th and final playoff spot in the SUNYAC tournament. In Friday's 1-0 win over Oswego, Matt Belardi scored the game-winning goal. In Saturday's 2-1 victory over Cortland, Kevin Loftus scored the first Blue Devil goal, while Jackson Retzer netted the game-winning goal. The Blue Devils finished the season 3-4-2 in conference play and 7-7-4 overall. Belardi, goalkeeper Ty Bentham, midfielder Jack Verbicki, and forwards Conrad Rathbun and Chad Gilson were wearing the blue and white for the final time. All 5 were recognized along with their parents during a pregame ceremony. The women's soccer team also fell just short of the playoffs this weekend as they lost to Cortland on Saturday 2-1 in overtime. The women did defeat Oswego 2-1 on Friday, but Saturday's loss dropped the Blue Devils to 3-4-2 in the conference and 6-9-2 overall. They finished in 7th place with 11 points, 1 point back of 6th placed Oneonta. The Blue Devils dressed as 2 seniors all season, 4-year player and co-captain Shania Platt, and 2019 leading scorer Melanie Manati, who finished with 7 goals and 15 points. And finally, the women's volleyball team lost 3-1 to Potsdam Friday, but defeated Plattsburgh 3-0 on Saturday. The Devils finished conference play with a 2-7 record and improved to 9-16 overall. They take on Medaille in the home finale tomorrow night at 7 before playing in the RIT tournament this upcoming weekend. So, an unfortunate sequence of events for the 2 soccer teams. But, they finished strong, so that's good, and they can use that momentum headed into next year.
Yep, for sure.
And I can't believe it, but winter sports are already here. First set of hockey games are this weekend, Friday and Saturday.
We'll be there, streaming on this channel, so.
And as for the World Series now, what looked like was going to be the Nationals going on a storybook ending, as we were saying last week, the Astros have stormed back to retake a 3-2 series lead.
I really wish we talked about this series like last Thursday instead of now, because it was like a storybook, like a fairy tale the entire postseason, but now it's kind of depressing because the Nationals initially in the series, they took the first 2 games, but they took the first 2 games in Houston. So they only needed to take 1 game out of 3 games at home to have, just 1 more game to win the whole series. But unfortunately, they couldn't take a single game at home. They only scored in 3 home games 1 run each game for a total of 3 runs. So this team just completely looks out of sorts, and it looks like the Astros has their number.
Yeah, it's been a wacky World Series for the Nationals just because they weren't expected to win in Houston. Well, they weren't expected to win Game 1 because that was Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole hasn't lost since May 27th, and they beat him in Game 1 of the World Series in Houston. And they took that one 5-4, and then they exploded in Game 2 for, 6 runs in the 7th inning, and they took that one 12-3.
And they beat Garrett Cole, who hasn't lost again since May 22nd, and then they beat Justin Verlander, who has been completely lights out in this postseason so far. So they made it through, both of their pitchers, and those were the 2, and it was at home too. So I just can't think of, it's crazy that they've just dropped 3 games in a row now, and they haven't been able to take control of this series back. And they've gotten unlucky too. Scherzer apparently is having really bad. He had a back injury and he's having trouble moving his arm.
Neck spasms.
Yeah. So
Joe Ross had to start last night,
and that didn't go very well. So
yeah, so they take the first 2 in Houston, and I'm thinking, okay, they were 19-31 to start the year. They go on this crazy run to finish with 90-plus wins. They take the wild card, win the wild card game over the Brewers, beat the Dodgers and then the Cardinals. And I was like, there's no way this team is losing. Like, this is a perfect story. They're just like, they're on the last step of this cool story throughout the year. And then they took the first 2 in Houston. I'm like,
And
this is it.
The biggest thing is that this team is finally healthy. That's a team that's had injury problems the entire year, and they have everybody there. They have their entire pitching staff ready to go, and they're all pitching really well. I mean, you could say in this World Series that there's 6 genuine Cy Young candidates, and they've just fallen apart in these last 3 games. It's so disappointing to see. And we picked the Astros to win, so we should be happy that they're ahead.
Yeah, so the Astros outscored Washington 19-3 in the 3 games in Washington. That's just unacceptable for the Nationals. You can't score 3 runs in 3 games at home when you're up 2-0 in the series. And now they have to go into Houston for games 6 and 7. And it's obviously not impossible, but Houston has all the momentum right now, and they're at home. So it's going to be really tough to come back from.
For sure, and the probable pitchers this next game is going to be Verlander versus Strasburg. Strasburg is going to have to pitch an absolute gem to keep them into this. I mean, Verlander already got hit in Game 2, and I don't think that it's going to happen again. We already saw it with Garrett Cole, Garrett Cole came out and had a bad game his first game, but then in his second game last night was shut out and pitched seven innings with just 1 run given up. So I don't see how the Nationals are going to make it out of this, to be completely honest. I think that they're in a lot of trouble. They're going back home. The Astros are in the swing of things. Their bats are going. George Springer has hit 5 home runs. Anthony Rendon, Juan Soto for the Nationals, who were on fire this entire postseason, have had trouble getting their bats up. So with the Nationals' bats drying up and the Astros' bats heating up, this is looking very dangerous going back home for the Nats.
Now, Strasburg and Verlander did face off in Game 2 in Houston, and Strasburg won that thanks to that 6-run outpour in the 7th inning.
Mm-hmm. And the Nationals hit him for 2 runs in the first inning, too, so they were quick with their at-bats.
So they have defeated Verlander in Houston in this series. So they do have that going for them.
An interesting thing is that the home team in this series hasn't won a single time.
Yeah.
So who knows? I know that a lot of people have been comparing the series to the 1996 with the Atlanta Braves, where they won 2 home games or away games, and the Yankees swept them 4 games back. We'll see. Game 3, the Astros took it 4-1. That was the Greinke versus Anibal Sanchez. And Anibal Sanchez, who's been lights out, did not pitch that well that game. Greinke pitched a pretty good game, and they just kept their bats up throughout the entire game, which has just been what this series has been like. It's just the Astros have been on fire, and they've been. Seems like everybody's hitting. Altuve, Gurriel, Josh Reddick,
Bregman.
Bregman hit a grand slam in Game 5 to crack it from 4-1 to 8-1, which I bet it feels pretty good to hit a grand slam in the World Series. Yeah. It's like every kid's dream.
Especially because he was pretty cold coming into that, too.
Yeah,
right?
He's been coming alive, and he's been a big part for them, too. Bregman has not been that great this postseason for who is, he has a real shot at the MVP for the AL this season. So.
Yeah, he hit, 42
home runs?
Yeah, he's in the 40s for home runs. His average was crazy good, RBIs. He had a really good year, but he's been really cold in the postseason. Now, the Astros are good enough. They have a complete enough team where they can have an MVP for the whole league go completely ice cold, and they won't miss a beat because they have that many good players. If the Angels were in the World Series, they would need Mike Trout to put up the numbers that he did in the regular season. But because the Astros are so good, they're able to pick up the slack for Bregman.
You know who's come alive this World Series with his bat? Yordan Alvarez, who was 0 for 22 in the Yankees series, and he just hit a home run last night and then drove in another run with a double. So if he can get going and their DH is working, that's even more dangerous for the Nationals. Game 4, the Astros won 8-1, and that was the game that they put Jose Urquidy out, who I don't think Urquidy has pitched this entire postseason, and they rested Game 4 on him. I think he's just been in relief. And he started, and then he went 5 shutout innings, which is another sign of why baseball just doesn't make any sense. Nobody knew this guy. And Patrick Corbin in that game got shelled. So, again, in Bregman, that was the same game that Bregman hit the grand slam to make it 8-1.
And that's when you could really feel the momentum shifting. Mm-hmm. They were, like we said, they took the Nationals took the first 2 in Houston, come back home, lose the next 2. Game 3, or Game 5 last night, I don't know if it was just me or you or everyone, but I could just sense that the momentum was already on Houston's side, and I knew they were going to take Game 5 last night.
Yeah, I think it was pretty obvious that they were going to come in there, and they just have all the momentum in the world. And with 2 games left, I don't see how the Astros aren't going to just go for the throat and close this one out. It's Strasburg versus Verlander on the mound, which are both great pitchers, but I don't think Verlander is going to get hit twice, just like how Garrett Cole wasn't going to let up 2 games.
No, because Justin Verlander, he's the type of pitcher, he's so good that he will not lose 2 times at home in the World Series. Like, he's just that good. Mm-hmm. Verlander is one of the best pitchers in history just because of how tough he is, mentally and physically. Mm-hmm. He can just bear down and mow down batters when he needs to. And he's, 36? Mm-hmm. And he just keeps getting better and better. So to me, I don't see Houston losing another game at home and letting the Nationals creep back in to make it Game 7. I think Verlander throws, I'm not going to say a shutout, but I think he has a terrific game.
You think they close it out in 6?
Yeah, I think
that was a lot of people's predictions before the season happened. It was Astros in 6. So it's interesting to see, like, even after the Nats were up 2-0, taking both home games, that maybe it's just going to be 6-2 anyway, or 4-2 anyway. So we'll see in Game 6. One thing I did want to talk about really quickly. Did you see the bad strike calls last night with Victor Robles?
I did not. I was working on some online homework that was due at midnight. So.
They had an outside strike call, and it was interesting because it made a lot of people wonder if they should put the robot umps in the postseason.
Oh.
That automatically take strike calls.
So they called it a strike?
It was outside. It was a ball, and it was called a strike, and it rung them up.
Oh, okay. So how far off was it from?
A few inches off the plate. It was a pretty questionable call. So it's curious to see.
I don't know about robots, but maybe some instant replay challenges like in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of the NFL, we have some NFL stuff coming for you with Aaron. So, Mac, thanks for coming on. And should be a good couple game. Well, at least good game tomorrow. We'll see if there's a couple or Verlander can stop this Nationals threat. So, thanks for coming on, and Aaron will be on in 2 minutes.
I'll be right back. Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that?
Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Welcome to the NFL portion of our show, and happy to have Aaron back on with us. Aaron, how's it going?
I'm pretty good, Kevin. Nice long day, but ready to talk some football, that's for sure.
All right, so the first game we have here, the Detroit Lions and the New York Giants, who just made a trade today, actually. They acquired Leonard Williams from the Jets. So
Yep.
he goes from locker room to locker room because it's the same stadium.
They're both in MetLife, so it's
Yeah.
not a big deal.
So they do get Leonard Williams, but they also dropped the game to the Lions yesterday, 31-26.
Matt Stafford actually, played lights out. But also, Daniel Jones also played lights out. He threw 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. A lot of people were coming into this game were saying that, DJ throws a lot of, or causes a lot of turnovers and whatnot. But I guess this week he shut the haters up and, threw a 4 touchdown performance with no picks for 322 yards. But Matt Stafford also played pretty good. So, and the Lions picked up the win. So, as good as Daniel Jones was, he couldn't get them the win.
Well, I will say, Daniel Jones may not have thrown an interception, but he tried throwing a screen pass that was behind the line of scrimmage, and the Lions ended up scooping it up and taking it into the house for 6. So he did have a bad
Hey, he's
decision
not
there.
perfect. He's
Well,
not
I know,
perfect.
but he did have a major turnover that was the difference in the game. I mean, they lost by 5, so that was the difference right there.
I was looking at the highlights of that game, and after weeks of Saquon Barkley out, he ran a mean run down like the right side, and he just took out three defenders trying to get him. 3 defenders. He juked 2 and stiff-armed 1, and it was a hard stiff arm. I haven't seen anything like it. It was just insane. Did you see it or no? No.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Saquon is
Jeez.
he's a tank. I would not want to tackle him.
Yeah, just imagine meeting him right up the middle. You're the middle linebacker.
Yeah.
Just nope.
And speaking of stiff arms, did you see Cortland Sutton's stiff arm, which leads us to our next game?
No, I did not.
The
Just so you
Broncos
know.
and Colts. So
This game, it was sloppy, and I didn't watch the game, but just by the score, and I was looking at the stat line, it was pretty sloppy. But the one thing that has been crazy this year is that Jacoby Brissett is still proving the doubters wrong. After a full season when he took over in 2017, he didn't play that good, and the Colts weren't that good of a team. Now, last year, Andrew Luck obviously led them to the playoffs, and he probably had the best season that he's ever had. And then he retired. So Jacoby Brissett has been taken over in what? They're now 5-2, right? I think they're 5-2. I mean, that's pretty good for a guy who they believed wasn't going to play good because he was not ready and whatnot. So, that's impressive on its own. That's all I'm going to say.
So anyways, what I was saying was Cortland Sutton had a nasty stiff arm on a Colts defender. He literally just shoved
Tossed
him down.
him?
It was, watch it after.
Get out of here.
Watch it after the show. It was awesome. But the Broncos almost escaped with a win, but Adam Vinatieri had a game-winning field goal. And Vinatieri also, he's been struggling this year. He's probably the best kicker of all time, and he missed an extra point and a field goal. So he did make the field goal when it counted, and it gave them the 15-13 win. The Broncos got the ball, and Joe Flacco just has no mobility, and he got sacked from behind. He got sacked hard, too, and that was it for the Broncos.
I mean, Adam Vinatieri, I think his 25th season, 24th season in the league, he's been unreliable for many teams. He's won the Patriots 2 Super Bowls, and he's been on the Colts for a couple years. And the one thing that I'll never forget of him playing on the Colts was that snow game in Buffalo when there was a snow up to past where they could even put the football for like an extra point or anything like that. So it was hard to hold it. And I remember because there was just the kick, it went in so many directions before it went in. And kicking in, obviously in like a blizzard is not like the easiest thing to do. And
kicking is not easy to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. And he's been doing it for so long. He's like 46 now, and he's just Mr. Unreliable.
Yeah, so the next game we have, it was the Chargers and the Bears. This was a close one, and the Chargers finally got back in the win column, taking this one 17-16.
Yeah, I mean, Phillip Rivers didn't really play that good. He played all right, and it's just the big deal about this game is like the Bears. They were so dominant last year with that defense and whatnot, but You know, the Bears are. I mean, I don't mean they're like the Cubs, like, you know, the baseball team, but I mean they're playing like Cubs, like babies. That's what I'm saying. They're not playing good, and I don't know, but I just think it's crazy how a one season difference. You know, like I said, they were dominant last season, and now they're just mediocre. So
Tariq Cohen, I think one of their biggest problems is Tariq Cohen hasn't been doing anything all year.
Yeah.
He had 4 rushes for 9 yards.
Yeah, and David Montgomery, I mean, he played good this week. He had over 100 yards, but before that, I mean, I picked him up in fantasy, and he was just the last like 5 weeks he's been irrelevant. So what can you do, you know? But it's early still. I mean, we're halfway through the season at this point, but you never know what's going to happen in the next half.
Now, on the other side, the Chargers did get the win, but they still have a lot of questions because they're only 3-5, and they were expected to compete for the AFC West and definitely get one of the wild cards. And Melvin Gordon, he came back after his holdout, and he just hasn't been the same ever since.
Yeah, he did score a touchdown actually, but I mean, he's still not the same guy.
But only 31 yards.
Exactly.
And now I heard a rumor today that the Bills and Lions are interested in trading for him. That was from ESPN.
I mean, he's a great player. I mean, even though he's been inconsistent this season, you know, next season could be different, or even by the time he gets traded, you never know. Maybe he just doesn't want to play there anymore. Maybe there's some like in the locker room thing or something that's, you know, bigger than football. You know, he wants to take his talent somewhere else. I mean, that's totally fine.
Maybe he just needs a change of scenery.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Like Eric Ebron, first couple years in Detroit, nothing. Went to Indianapolis last year, 13 touchdowns, was probably the biggest surprise of last year, in my opinion.
And one heck of a catch last week.
Oh, yeah. That one-handed catch?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, yeah, the NFL trade deadline is tomorrow at 4. So it'll be interesting, not just for the Bills, but for all these teams. Because there are a ton of rumors. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders got traded already to the 49ers.
Yeah, 49ers.
And Leonard Williams today. Yeah. And what was the other one I'm blanking on now?
Yeah, I can't remember.
I'm blanking. But anyways, a guy that we know is not going to get traded, Drew Brees.
Yep.
Back on the field after, what was that, 6 weeks, I think, with that thumb injury?
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater held it down 4-0 or 5-0 as a starter.
Yeah.
And now Drew Brees was back.
Highest paid backup.
Yep. And in my opinion, I said this a couple weeks ago, Teddy Bridgewater does not deserve to be a backup. After that horrific leg injury in Minnesota a couple years ago, I think he's ready to shine on his own team. Like, you know, Jacoby Brissett has started to shine and whatnot. I think it's Teddy Bridgewater's turn. But that's not really what we're talking about right now. So,
but hang on, real quick. You got to think, Brees is, 40? So he's only got a couple years left.
Yeah.
He might just want to wait it out. He's probably happy being the backup, and he might want to be his successor.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Drew Brees is one of the best of all time. I mean, he's probably one of the underrated GOATs. You know, not a lot of people talk about him. Undersized, 6 foot, out of Purdue, like not a big football school and all that. It's just like, you know, all these people think about Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Dan Marino, and then it's like, oh, and Drew Brees. But Drew Brees, like last year he broke the record for the most passing yards and whatnot, and he still looks great at 40.
Oh, God, yeah.
So
373 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Exactly. So basically, like I said, he came back like he was never injured at that point. So I don't know how everything's going to be towards the end of the season, but all I know is that the Saints are a dangerous team.
Yeah, and if they can go 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater, there's no reason why. Well,
they can't win out.
Yeah, I don't want to say they're going to go undefeated.
Yeah.
But they definitely have a bright road ahead, I would say, especially with Brees back now.
Mm-hmm.
So next game we have Seattle and Atlanta. It looked like the Falcons were going to get blown out again. They came back. Matt Schaub, who, I got to be honest, I forgot he's still in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he
throws
threw
for 460
something yards. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. But I don't know. The big thing about this game is, like, the Falcons can't catch a break. That's the thing. I know Seattle's a good team, and sometimes they're wishy-washy, but I guess they got out to a lead early and they just kept it. I didn't personally watch this game, so I really had no idea what was happening. I just saw Matt Schaub, who, in my opinion, like I said, like Kevin said, I didn't even know he was in the league anymore. He's lighting up like the passing yards for almost 500 yards. You know, it's crazy, but just Atlanta, like 2 years ago, they were on top of the world, and now they're just
1-7.
exactly.
They are not flying high.
Yeah.
So yeah, but Schaub was 39 of 52 for 460 yards, threw a touchdown and a pick. So that was the one bright spot.
Yep.
And the last game we have here, the Texans and the Raiders.
This was a really good game.
So the Texans won, but some terrible news after the game. J.J. Watt is out for the year now.
Pectoral injury. Yep. He's out for the season. Deshaun Watson, 3 touchdowns. He played really dominant. But, I mean, Derek Carr also played really good. He also threw 3 touchdowns. You know, this was a big game for tight ends on National Tight End Day, which was yesterday. Darren Waller.
Wait, is that actually a thing?
Yes, that's actually
Really?
a thing, yeah. Darren Waller of the Raiders scored a touchdown, and Darren Fells of Houston scored 2 touchdowns. So I guess yesterday was a great day to be named Darren. I don't know. I just thought that would be witty and funny, but I guess it doesn't sound as good as I thought it would.
The Texans could be tough.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson, he's so good.
Yep.
He just makes plays happen.
Yeah, he got
DeAndre Hopkins.
Watson actually got kicked in the face yesterday as he was completing a pass. You know, it went right through the face mask, the guy's cleat. And after the game, he had like a bandage on and everything. But he'll be fine. He'll play next week. But just that whole sequence, you know, everyone thought he was going to get sacked. He rolled out of it, but then he got kicked in the face because the guy's momentum he came up and hit him. And then that's when Darren Fells caught his 2nd touchdown. So it was a pretty good week for some of these teams.
Yeah, so 2 minutes left. Got to talk about our teams real quick. So the Bills lost, dropped to 5-2. But, or actually, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Chiefs also
Chiefs,
lost.
I was gonna say.
We're 5-3 now.
Well, I guess that is good for a Bills fan. But,
Yeah.
So the Packers won on Sunday Night Football. Mahomes did not play, but Rodgers was phenomenal again.
And Matt Moore. Let me just talk about Matt Moore real quick. You know, as a guy who was scouting Kyler Murray on his pro day for the Miami Dolphins, just to come out in bright, you know, in Sunday Night Football, you know, a huge game and just played his heart out. You know, they almost took the win, but, you know, you got to feel good when Mahomes is out and Matt Moore, who was out of the league last year, comes and does that on a primetime game, you know?
24-36, 267 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
And the difference not the difference, but Rodgers had that amazing touchdown pass where
Aaron
it looked like
Jones.
he was throwing it out of bounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that ended up being the difference in the game,
Yeah.
7 points right there. So Packers go to 7-1. Chiefs drop to 5-3. Hopefully they get Mahomes back soon. Well, actually, hopefully for you, because as a Bills fan, it helps for the wild card.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for the NFL segment. And next is going to be Josh with hockey. So stay tuned.
I'll be right back. Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that?
Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Josh, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good. Sabres are still doing good, so we didn't jinx them last week. I saw a good game. They beat the Sharks. So.
Yeah, I'm really glad we didn't.
So we'll talk about the Sabres towards the end of this segment. But to get us started off here, who were the 3 stars of the week?
Yeah, so the NHL released their 3 stars of the week as they normally do. Third star this week was Philadelphia Flyers goaltender Brian Elliott. He went 3-0-0 with a 2.02 goals against average, a .933 save percentage in 3 games. He's been really good for the Flyers so far this year. They got a good tandem over there with Carter Hart as the backup for him, and Flyers look to be rolling here. Second star of the week, Roman Josi from the Nashville Predators, had 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points in 3 games. Great start of the year by him. He's always been a rock over there in Nashville. He's their captain. Real good production from him as usual. And the first star of the week, Brad the Rat Marchand. 3 goals, 5 assists for 8 points in 3 games. Marchand's been lighting it up over there in Boston, and a lot of people have been saying, you got Marshied. Boston's been really good, really hot so far this year too. They're up in the top 5 of the league, I think.
They're right behind us.
Yep, they're closing in on first, trying to take it away from us, along with Washington and a few other teams. But things have been really good this year around the league, a lot of production.
And then we had a milestone, too. Marc-Andre Fleury got to his 800th career NHL game.
It was also his 446th NHL win, moving him to 7th in the list of all-time career wins, sitting only 4 wins behind Henrik Lundqvist. He's got a long way to go to top Martin Brodeur, though. He's about 690 wins all time. He's played almost 2,000 games. Fleury's got a long way to go if he wants to catch him, and I think he's got a lot left in the tank, though. He's still kicking.
See, I feel like, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like everyone kind of gave up on Marc-Andre Fleury once Matt Murray took over in Pittsburgh, and then they just kind of, gave him to Las Vegas during the expansion draft. They're like, you can have Fleury. We don't need him anymore. And I'm thinking, this guy's still one of the top goalies in the league.
Right, yeah.
And he's only, in his young
he's in
early
his early
30s.
I think he's 32. No, he has a lot left in the tank, and I think it was just one of those you need to change of scenery sort of things, like a lot of players do sometimes. Like Artemi Panarin came to New York, and he's lighting it up there. Fleury's been lighting it up in Las Vegas. There's a great environment out in Las Vegas, so anyone's going to produce well there. But Fleury, already being as good as he was, he's going to keep going. But so to segue into that, Pittsburgh held tough in a game against Tampa. It's my first game of the week. Considering they were the away team, playing in Tampa, it's tough. Jari played well for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's their backup goalie behind Matt Murray. He's played very well for them all season. Pittsburgh stepped up and held into the game. Great individual effort from Brandon Tanev, who held the puck for like 10 seconds, I believe, and comes from behind the net to roof it backhand right over Vasilevsky's head. I mean, it was a great goal to watch. Beautiful goal. He skated the puck in the zone, held it, had a bunch of options out front, came from behind the net, looked to pass, faked the pass, took the shot, and beat Vasilevsky. The problem being is, though, they gave up a stupid penalty at the end of the game. Pittsburgh let Tampa on the power play in their home rink with a minute to go, and Tampa's going to Tampa and beat Pittsburgh 3-2 in their home rink. Vasilevsky played great as usual. I mean, he came up with a huge save in the dying seconds. Empty netter, too, it would have been. Pittsburgh really forced it at the end there, but Pittsburgh just didn't protect their goalie, and I think that was the big problem for them.
Now, Pittsburgh and Tampa, we're used to seeing them in the top of the standings every year. But I know it's early, but right now they're kind of in the middle of the pack. So are they expected to get back into the top, or do you think they're starting to fizzle out? Because I know Pittsburgh has lost a lot of talent from that like the 2010 to 2015 era where they were
Right.
just dominant every year.
Yeah, and I mean, a bunch of guys, they're slowing down, like Malkin, Crosby. They're not going to be always Malkin and Crosby. They're not going to be dominant forces like they always have been. But I think that, it's kind of an end of an era in Pittsburgh, but with with Tampa, I don't know what's going on there. Tampa came off a historic season. I mean, maybe you're on the President's Trophy hangover, but 128 points, it's the most points any NHL team's ever scored, or they actually tied the record last year. And it's very interesting to see what's going on in Tampa, but they seem to be on the rebound. They're coming up. It's only, like we said, it's only the beginning of the season. I think they're going to bounce back nicely. Next up on my list, we got Washington versus Edmonton. That was a Friday night game, excuse me. Washington was coming into this game on a 4-game win streak, and they could have taken first in the league with a win, but Edmonton is looking to redeem themselves, coming into home off an embarrassing 3-0 loss to the Minnesota Wild. The Oilers look decent at first, but then they start to scramble and end up making a big mistake, leaving Alex Ovechkin wide open on the power play. That's something that every NHL team knows not to do. Washington takes a 3-1 lead going into the third, and honestly, this was Washington's game to lose at this point, and that's exactly what they did. Washington gives Edmonton life. They score 5 minutes into the third period, and then get the tying goal from Connor McDavid with about 2 minutes to go. Get a quick early chance in overtime. Washington gets a quick early chance in overtime. That turns into a 2-on-1 going the other way, with Leon Draisaitl getting the game winner for Edmonton. And a guy like Draisaitl, he's not going to miss. He's not going to miss on that 2-on-1. It was a beautiful pass. But Washington, like I said, it was their game to lose. 2-goal lead's the worst league in hockey, and you just saw it there.
And that was a battle of the second-place teams, as Edmonton is second place. They are in second place in the Western Conference. Mm-hmm. And the Capitals are in second place
in the Eastern.
In the East.
And actually now Washington is tied with the Sabres for first place, but the Sabres are in first due to goal differential.
And we have a game in hand to them. We've only played 12, and they've played 13.
So we have a couple stats up on them.
Yeah.
Final game I picked was the first outdoor game of the year. It was the Heritage Classic in Regina, Saskatchewan. Good back and forth game, which is always great for the fans, but especially for an outdoor game. It's late at night. It's cold. It's a great atmosphere. Calgary had a great offensive pressure all game, but Winnipeg was dominant on faceoffs later in the game and having a surprisingly strong defense despite the fact that they have a really weak D-core. They also relied heavily on Connor Hellebuck. Calgary get the first goal from overpowering that Jets defense and just crashing the net. It was scored by Elias Lindholm. The game tying goal scored by Josh Morrissey with a laser from the point on the power play with 5 minutes to go. And power play proved to be very deadly here for the for the Jets, and it proved detrimental to the Flames. Game heads to overtime with Winnipeg, and it's all Winnipeg. They have a power play chance. They can't convert, but they keep control of the play, and Brian Little scores with a little less than 3 minutes to go in overtime. Great win for the fans and the Jets, considering it's near their hometown. I mean, it might be a good morale boost for them. We could see them bounce back here. They're at that game. They were with that win. They were at 500, 6-6 on the season.
I didn't even know that game was played outdoors.
Right.
So,
it was actually not very well advertised by the NHL, and a lot of people were upset about that because people love watching those games.
So remind me of my geography. Where is Saskatchewan?
Saskatchewan is kind of above Michigan and like the Dakotas. I think it's more above the Dakotas. And Regina is like an hour away from Winnipeg. They played in the Saskatchewan CFL team arena.
Oh, okay.
Where the Canadian Football League team in Saskatchewan plays. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a great game to watch. I love watching these games, and there will be the Winter Classic on January 1st, which is against Nashville and Dallas. It'll be in Dallas, and then there will be a couple more Heritage Classic games throughout the year.
Yeah, like I said, I had no clue that even happened.
Right,
so.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a poor, advertising by the NHL.
And that kind of goes along with the NHL in general, because the NHL really doesn't get a lot of good advertising. ESPN's coverage is terrible.
Right. Yeah.
And
the NHL basically runs their own advertising.
Yeah.
They have to use the NHL network to their advantage.
The NFL, there were all the games in London over the last few weeks.
Right. They've had them on ESPN and everything like that.
Yeah. Everyone knows because ESPN advertises and all these other stations.
Right.
But with the NHL, it's pretty much the NHL, and if they don't do a good job of advertising, then the fans don't really know.
Yeah, and speaking of overseas games, the Sabres are actually going on a overseas trip to Sweden.
Yeah, that's right.
Next week.
Against Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa and the Sabres will be heading to Sweden for next Friday and Saturday, so that'll be a cool game for guys like Rasmus Dahlin and Linus Ullmark and people like that, like guys from Sweden.
Olofsson, right?
Olofsson too, yep. But it's been another successful week for the team. They now sit at 9-2-1 on the season. Their second loss coming to the Rangers, 6-2. That was a very sloppy game against a very beatable Rangers team, and I know I, for one, was very upset with that. But I was looking for the bounce back, and that's what we got with a win on Friday against the Detroit Red Wings. Linus Ullmark gets his first shutout of the season, making 41 saves. Jimmy Vesey and Marco Scandella left the New York Rangers game early with injuries, and they're expected to return soon. So John Gilmour and Evan Rodriguez have stepped up. John Gilmour, the defenseman, and Rodriguez, the right winger.
I don't get why Rodriguez hasn't been playing. Do you know why? Because they re-signed him.
It's tough to say. It's more. I think they're trying to stick with what's working right now. But right now, I mean, Rodriguez has always been hot. He's always done good on the power play. He's always done good on the penalty kill. But what they have isn't necessarily not working. What they're doing is fine. I mean, Jimmy Vesey's been all right. Scandella's been getting there, Saboka, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what position Saboka?
He's also, well, technically he's left center and right wing. He could play all three if he wanted, but mostly he's right wing.
So why, I hate to harp on Saboka all the time, but why is he playing over Evan Rodriguez?
Right, it's tough to say, but Rodriguez, I'm hoping this isn't going to turn into a Nathan Beaulieu situation where he wants to leave, but Rodriguez loves his town. This town loves Rodriguez. He plays with Jack Eichel. I mean, life's good for him when he's playing, but hopefully he can come into his own here and, do good like he was last year.
So the Sabres have just completed 2 periods at home against Arizona, and they lead that, they don't lead that. They go into the second intermission tied at 2. Arizona just came back and got a goal.
Right.
So.
The 2 goals for the Sabres so far have been scored by Jack Eichel and Jeff Skinner.
The birthday boy.
Yeah, the birthday boy, Jack Eichel. Happy birthday to him. He turns 23. But Skinner assisted Eichel's goal, and Johansson and Saboka assisted Skinner's goal. So good production by those 2 lines, and all 3 lines have been rolling tonight, or all 4 lines, excuse me.
So the third period will be getting underway soon, and thanks for coming on, Josh. And also coming on soon will be Meyer to talk some NBA. So stay tuned for the last segment.
I'll be right back.
Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that?
Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Meyer Mikulski joins us for the NBA segment now, and we have 6 games that we want to talk about as the NBA season is underway. And Sunday actually was the only day this year in which the NBA, the NHL, the MLB, and the NFL all played on the same day. So this is definitely for sports fans one of the best times of the year. Well, probably the best time of the year, depending on what kind of a fan you are.
Yes, definitely.
So the games that we have, Raptors and Pelicans, Clippers, Lakers, Nuggets, Blazers, Bucks, Rockets, Nets, Knicks, and Thunder, Warriors. So first up, first game of the year actually, Toronto and New Orleans. Toronto took this one 130 to 122.
So the Raptors were led by Pascal Siakam, who recorded 34 points, 18 rebounds, and 5 assists, and Fred VanVleet, who recorded 34 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists. They proved that they're legit and they weren't a fluke from last season, at least for right now. Kyle Lowry chipped in with 22 points on just 4 of 15 shooting, and half of his points came from free throws. But to make up for that, he had 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals. And he gets a lot of slander for his inconsistent play, but he doesn't get enough credit for the little things that he does. The Pelicans, however, were led by former Duke standouts Brandon Ingram, who recorded 22 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, and 2 blocks, and J.J. Redick with 16 points on 4 of 6 three-point shooting. Also, they received contributions from former Laker Josh Hart, who scored 15 points and recorded 10 rebounds and made a big three-pointer to force overtime. So what are your thoughts, Kevin?
I didn't realize New Orleans had so many former Duke players.
Yeah.
With Brandon Ingram, J.J. Redick, and then Zion, obviously.
Yeah, and they also have Jahlil Okafor and Frank Jackson.
That's right. So 5 former Duke players.
Yep.
Wow. So I think the biggest question now around the Raptors is, can they sustain their success from last year? So what do you think? Kawhi's in LA now. Do you think they still have enough pieces to be successful? Or do you think that the loss of Kawhi is just too much to overcome?
I don't believe they will be as successful as last year. However, I still think they're a quality basketball team, and I still think they could be a top 4 seed in the East because of their chemistry and because they've been there, done that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see them winning the title this year, but they're definitely playoff worthy, and they might even be able to make a little run.
And they have great basketball minds, as LeBron would say.
Yeah. Well, speaking of LeBron and speaking of Kawhi, they faced off for the first time this year. What night was that?
It was
it a primetime game?
Yeah, it was Tuesday. It was the first day of the season.
Oh, that's right, because it was the Raptors Pelicans was the very first game, and then Lakers Clippers. So the Clippers took this one 112 to 102.
The Clippers were led by Kawhi Leonard, who recorded 30 points on 10 of 19 shooting with 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals. And Lou Williams with 21 points on 8 of 14 shooting, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists. They were also sparked by the energetic play of Montrezl Harrell, who recorded 17 points on 7 of 11 shooting, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and a block as well. The Lakers were led by sharpshooter Danny Green, who recorded 28 points on 7 of 9 three-point shooting, and their star acquisition, Anthony Davis, who recorded 25 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. However, LeBron did not have one of his best games. He scored just 18 points on 7 of 19 shooting, but did record 10 rebounds and 8 assists. So what are your thoughts, Kevin?
Well, I think I'm going to ask you what everyone else is going to be asking. Which is a better team in LA, and who has the best player in the NBA on their team? Is it LeBron or Kawhi?
All right, so to answer your first question, on paper, the Clippers look better, but as far as personnel and IQ-wise, I'll say the Lakers. And to answer your second question, I'm still going to go with LeBron, only because, he's done
LeBron.
he's done so much.
Yeah, for the first question, I don't know. It's too early for me to tell.
Yeah.
Both teams have made a lot of good additions. Both teams have, well, at least the Lakers have lost a lot, but they've also gained a lot.
Yes.
So, I don't know. It's still very early for that. And I got to go LeBron, too. I can't choose anyone other than LeBron.
As
just
great
because
as,
he's LeBron. He's done it for so long. He's been so good. And he had 2 extra months this year to rest up. He wasn't in the finals for once.
Yeah.
He wasn't even in the playoffs. So he had 2 months to, well, I won't say sit home because I'm sure he was working out and doing stuff,
Yeah.
but 2 months to not go through that grind and put his body through all that physical pressure and even mental pressure too.
Yes.
So I got to go LeBron here. I think he's going to have a huge bounce back here.
Yeah, I just wish he wasn't so passive in this game. But he has a tendency to do that, especially when he has new teammates. Like, he wants to feel his teammates out first. And then once he gets his if he does that just in case he has a bad game so that anybody else could just step up and not wait for him to do something. So maybe that's what his mentality was behind that.
So another highly anticipated game, rematch actually, that we had, Nuggets and Blazers. This is a rematch of their quadruple overtime game last year. Actually, that was a playoff game.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, it was a rematch this year, and the Nuggets took this one 108-100, no overtimes.
Yeah. The Nuggets were led by Nikola Jokic, who recorded 20 points, 13 rebounds, but just 2 assists, and Will Barton, who recorded 19 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. Jamal Murray, however, was held to just 14 points on 4 of 14 shooting, but contributed 5 rebounds and 6 assists to make up for it. The Blazers were led by Damian Lillard, who recorded 32 points, 4 rebounds, and 8 assists, and Hassan Whiteside, who recorded 16 points, 19 rebounds, and 2 blocks. However, their other star guard, C.J. McCollum, was held to just 12 points on 5 of 18 shooting and had just 3 assists to 5 turnovers.
So I think that both teams are going to be really good this year. And specifically the Blazers. I love the Hassan Whiteside addition.
Yes.
I think that was one of the best moves of the offseason because that was the missing piece, at least in my mind. You have Lillard and McCollum. That's been the duo for the last, 5 years?
Yeah.
And they never really had that star big guy after LaMarcus Aldridge left.
Nurkic was solid, though.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put him in the top tier. I think Whiteside is definitely one of the top big guys in the league, and they have a big 3 now. And Whiteside played like he used to play in Miami.
That's the thing, though. It depends on which version of the Whiteside shows up. Is it going to be the Whiteside that's been playing in Miami the past couple of years, or is it going to be the Whiteside that was hungry before he got that big contract?
Well, time will tell. I think that both teams are. Well, both of them had over 50 wins last year, right?
Yes.
I think both teams will definitely get that this year, if not more.
Yes.
So next game, another good matchup of 2 good teams. This was a matchup between an Eastern Conference team and a Western Conference team, Milwaukee and Houston. So Milwaukee took this one 117-111.
This game actually featured the last 3 MVPs of the NBA, which consist of Giannis Antetokounmpo, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook. Despite Giannis fouling out, the Bucks were able to pull through with some big shots from Wesley Matthews and Brook Lopez. Giannis led them with 30 points on 11 of 17 shooting, 13 rebounds, and 11 assists before he fouled out. And he reminded the world of why he was the MVP last season. Their other star, however, Chris Middleton, was held to just 11 points on 4 of 16 shooting, but Wesley Matthews and Brook Lopez were able to pick up the slack with 14 points and 13 points respectively. Houston was led by their superstar acquisition, Russell Westbrook, who recorded 24 points, 16 rebounds, and 7 assists. However, last season's scoring champ, James Harden, was held to just 19 points on 2 of 13 shooting. 14 of those points came from free throws, but has 7 rebounds and 14 assists to make up for it.
So do you think Milwaukee will be as good as they were last year, and do you think that they can get over that hump and get into the finals this year?
Honestly, I don't believe Milwaukee will be as good as last year because they lost a couple of key pieces like Malcolm Brogdon and Nikola Mirotic. So
That's right.
no.
Where did each of those guys go?
So Malcolm Brogdon went to Indiana, and Nikola Mirotic went back overseas.
Oh, okay. I forgot that Brogdon went to Indiana. I didn't even know that Mirotic went overseas.
Yeah.
But they, on paper, listen to their depth chart here. So point guard, Eric Bledsoe and George Hill. Really good duo. Shooting guard, Wesley Matthews, Dante DiVincenzo, and Sterling Brown. Small forward, Chris Middleton, Kyle Korver, Pat Connaughton, and Thanasis Antetokounmpo. And then power forward, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Ersan Ilyasova, and then, oh, I didn't even realize this. They have both Lopez
the
brothers.
twins,
So they have both Antetokounmpos and both Lopez's.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So Milwaukee is, on paper, really good. And I think a lot of this depends on how much did Giannis improve over the summer. Did his... A better question is, how much did his jump shot improve? Because that's the missing ingredient to Giannis' game right now. He has no jump shot.
At least he's willing to take them.
Yes.
But this team, in a sense, kind of reminds me of the 09 Cavs that surrounded LeBron with a lot of shooters, but they just weren't able to get over the hump.
Yeah, so, again, it's early. Time will tell. Next game we have Brooklyn and New York, the Battle of New York. And my Knicks dropped this one. They're 0-3 now, playing tonight against Chicago. Dennis Smith Jr. is not playing tonight, so we'll see. But anyways, Brooklyn took this one 113-109.
The Battle of New York did not disappoint, just as the Battle of LA just a couple days before. The Nets were led by Kyrie Irving, who recorded 26 points, 5 assists, and 3 steals, and Spencer Dinwiddie, who recorded 20 points and 5 assists. The Knicks were led by Alonzo Trier, who recorded 22 points on just 7 shot attempts. Kevin Knox on 16 points on 5-8 shooting, and third overall pick RJ Barrett, who recorded 16 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. However, their best player, Julius Randle, was held to just 14 points on 5 of 15 shooting, but did contribute 11 rebounds and 4 assists to make up for it. The Nets had control for majority of the game, but some key baskets from Wayne Ellington and RJ Barrett late made it interesting towards the end and even gave them the lead at one point.
I don't know what to think about the Knicks. It's just been so many years of not good basketball. I think they've made a lot of good additions to the point where they can compete for the 7th or 8th spot in the Eastern Conference, but if they get in, I don't see them going too far. Like, I don't see them getting past Milwaukee or Brooklyn.
Yeah, definitely not.
Or Toronto in the playoffs. But I like the additions. I love the draft pick of RJ Barrett. Didn't get Zion, but we have RJ now. Marcus Morris, they got him after a whole fiasco with San Antonio.
Yeah.
So Morris is in New York now. They got Julius Randle, Taj Gibson, Bobby Portis. The Knicks made some solid additions. Alfred Payton, too.
Yeah.
So, like I said, they're definitely going to be better. I just don't know how good. But I think we're trending in the right direction.
And I'm liking what I'm seeing from RJ Barrett so far. And let me tell you who he reminds me of. He reminds me of a player that won Rookie of the Year almost 10 years ago. He reminds me of a more athletic version of Tyreek Evans, but with a less ball handling ability.
I've never heard that comparison, so that's interesting. Real quick, we're running out of time, so the last game that we have, Oklahoma City and Golden State. The Thunder took this one 120-92. So, real quick, what are your thoughts here?
The Warriors don't look like the Warriors of old.
No Durant, no Clay, and they still have Steph and now D'Angelo Russell, so... Again, it'll be interesting to see. We're still early in the year. All these teams have so many new pieces that they're trying to gel and get some chemistry. And, as the season goes on, that they're going to start gelling. We're going to start seeing some better basketball, and these teams are going to start playing better together. So thanks for coming on, Meyer, and thank you for watching. That wraps up our 7th episode of the semester. So join us next week for our 8th episode right here from Hendricks Hall Sports Hour. Thank you and have a good evening.